The Lifestyle Show, presented by Selina MacKenzie.
Now, In the Blood is a memoir in two voices, those of a mother and a daughter who both ended up in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous just 9 months apart. They both very bravely agreed to join us to share their story. Welcome to the show, both Arabella and Julia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
It's great to have you both on the show. Where do we start? I mean, does that mean that alcoholism is hereditary? Is it genetic?
Yes. I mean, that's why we call the book In the Blood, because I think it's scientifically proven and actually quite clear to us that there is a strong genetic component in alcoholism. It doesn't always go. It's a bit like the knight in chess. It zigzags around. You can't. My father wasn't an alcoholic, but my grandfather, his father, died of the illness. So you can't say it will be passed directly, but it as I say, it zigzags around the family. So it's unpredictable. But once it's in your family, I mean, it's hard to ignore, actually.
So
and I think.
Go on, Arabella.
I think it sort of bears mentioning as well that children of alcoholics are statistically more likely to become alcoholics themselves. And so I think you see this genetic inheritance, which is something that we really wanted to write about in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming, Arabella, growing up, you knew about your mum, but did you, Julia, know about Arabella?
I'll go first. Once Arabella was sort of adolescent, going on towards being an adult, I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what it was, actually, because although I was a world-class boozer, I didn't know anything myself at that point about alcoholism. And, I didn't know that it was classified as a mental illness. I didn't know anything about it. So I thought Arabella was depressed. It is often, GPs quite often mistake alcoholism with depression. They give you antidepressants when you go and say you can't stop drinking. And I mean, so they are bedfellows, aren't they, Arabella? I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, and I think especially for women, I think it might be more compelling or somehow more acceptable to say that you suffer from depression than you suffer from alcoholism. And I think we sort of wanted to unpack that in the book in terms of looking at ways in which alcoholism, especially for women, hides in the shadows or hides, behind a different mask.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's such a shame, isn't it, that women do get labelled even nowadays, well, she's depressed or she's menopausal or it's PMT, it really is sad.
It is sad. I think the thing about alcoholism is that, it's mind. So women quite often drinking in the home, looking after children, it's doubly shameful. Men can drink in different stages to us, because they can leave the house. We can leave the house too, but it is a fact universally acknowledged, actually, that women do more of their drinking at home simply because that's where they are some of the time with children.
Yeah, and I think especially in the domestic setting, I think it hides behind many different sort of other names. Is what I believe, and I think we explored quite a lot of that in the second part of the book.
So was it, for both of you, was it a sort of coping mechanism? Because I know, Julia, you're a novelist, Arabella, you're a journalist. They're both quite stressful jobs, I'd say.
I started to drink when I was in my late teens, seriously, alcoholically, because I started to drink in my late teens because I couldn't deal with the strength of my feelings. My parents' marriage was breaking up and I was terribly, terribly afraid. And I started to drink then to numb my feelings. And then took root very, very quickly after that. I mean, it was like a kind of serpent. It twined itself round my very centre and I couldn't escape.
And how about you, Arabella?
Yeah, I think I found quite early on that it was clearly a way dealing with uncomfortable emotions, like Mum is saying. But I think also, I think if you watch your parents drink a great deal, I think that you do. I think it becomes sort of welded to an idea of how you cope. I think it's a sort of, I think you can put together this idea that, it's how you deal with these occurrences, these kind of emotional things in your life. So yeah, I think the same for me was that it became a coping mechanism.
Yeah. So Julia, from your point of view, were you able to help Arabella?
I'd been, by the time Arabella got sober, I'd been drinking since I was a teenager, and I was 53. And I was about 9 months sober when she came to me and said she thought she was an alcoholic. And my behavior was pretty bad, actually, because I didn't think she was an alcoholic. And I said, "Are you sure?" I was sober, but I was what we call start raving sober, actually. I was still in my first year, and I didn't really understand how many different faces alcoholism had. I thought because she didn't drink every day like I did, she couldn't be an alcoholic. But of course, I understand now that it takes many different shapes, Yeah. So I wasn't terribly pleased when she joined Alcoholics Anonymous, because I felt it was mine, actually, which was terribly selfish of me. But luckily I had an AA sponsor who kicked me in the backside and said, "You, it's the best thing that's ever happened. You just get on with it." So I took her advice.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, we hear so much about Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've interviewed people on the show about it in the past. But is that how you both got sober? Did they seem to really help?
Well, it never occurred to me to go to rehab. I think I was so scrambled, actually. I don't know why, it just didn't enter my mind. But I had met someone who got sober and stayed sober for 20 plus years, who told me about AA, and I thought I was interested. I began to see that there might be a way out, actually, for me. And so I went to AA, and what I found there was that I'd found my own tribe. It was the most extraordinary experience of my life. All the things I was keeping secret, like what an awful mother I was, and all the awful things I'd done, were a common currency in the rooms of AA. All your secrets are shared. And generally there's someone who's done something even worse than you. So it sort of cauterizes the shame, and it allows you to heal, actually. It's the most extraordinary experience that that I'm so grateful I've had, actually.
And did you feel the same, Arabella?
Yeah, I did. I found it to be, I guess for me, I kind of grew up in this therapeutic community. I got sober when I was 26, and I grew up in this, I see that I started my adult life when I got sober at the age of 26. And so I grew up in, for me, that's where I sort of came to consciousness as an adult. And it was, it continues to be the most profound and fundamental experience of my life. And I've done a lot, I've been sober for quite a while now, but it still is the most important thing in my life. And it's certainly what shapes me.
And is it still difficult for you both if you go out and you're surrounded by people who are drinking alcohol?
Well, I think the thing is, I've been sober for quite a long time now, and I'm not, on the whole, bothered by it, but I have to still be careful, because you're never cured of this. You can arrest it, but you're not cured. And I have sort of methods for dealing with parties. Arrive late, leave early. But also AA stresses that we're the alcoholics, not the other people in the world. They can do what they like, and we have to look after ourselves. It's not up to anyone else to make it okay for you. So people say, "Do you mind if I drink?" I say, "Of course I don't. Drink away." But if it all just gets too much for me, I'll just melt away. It's very simple. And go to bed. It's heaven.
Have an early night.
Have an early night.
And
something I never used to do, I can tell you.
Do you feel the same, Arabella?
Yeah, I do. I do feel absolutely the same. I don't, I guess, I don't condemn drinking or alcohol at all. I can't do it safely, so I don't. But if you can, I will
raise a glass of, ginger beer to you, but it absolutely, it's not something I think about on a daily basis. But like Mum says, I think, vigilance is important, even after, long-term sobriety.
I think, to be perfectly honest, if I'm ever the designated driver in our group of friends, so I'm the one that's not drinking, I just realise how idiotic we all look. When people are drunk, they really do seem very silly, and I'm one of them, you know what I mean? If I go out and have a drink, I know that I'm just as silly, but you don't realise until you're the sober one.
You don't realise. And, but it's one of, I think getting sober, I can't drink. I just actually cannot do it. So, being sober amongst a group of people who are a bit pissed, so what? That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'm so grateful to be able to drive myself safely around and other people, and I don't mean to sound sanctimonious. It's just I really am. I know how lucky I am. Still be here. Still be.
Can I ask if either of you are ever tempted? If you get something that's happening in your life that's incredibly stressful, as we all do you get tempted for that release?
I don't. No, I don't. Because, I think we say something in AA, we say, play the tape back. And I think if you remember what it was like, I think, it's not hard to remember why, that's something that you shouldn't, if you self-identify as an alcoholic, that you shouldn't drink. But, temptations come in different forms, I guess, when you're sober. I think there are other coping mechanisms sort of spring up. And I think that's something we really wanted to address in the book, was that, you might, becoming sober in that period of entering AA is certainly not the end of your story of how you get better. Sobriety is a long journey.
Yes. And I also think, I still, I can still eat a packet of biscuits when I feel, when I'm upset. And when I get upset now, I know I have to go through it and not round it. And I've realised I've developed resilience as well. That was news to me. I've discovered that actually I can have difficult feelings and survive them, which was something I didn't understand that I could do. So I'm lucky to know that. But, I do take care of myself. And if something really awful happens, I go to a meeting and I tell people, because that takes a sting out of so much of daily life. Yeah, it's amazing how therapeutic it is to talk to your fellows, actually.
And no judgment there, I should imagine.
No judgment. And just
none at all.
Being honest, you're not perfect. We shouldn't even ever try to be perfect. We're just trying to do our best. And sometimes it's not a very good best. But as long as you don't pick up a drink, it'll pass. And that's what I've learned from my years. But, people say to me, do you still go to meetings? I say, yeah, that's why I'm still sober, because I have to use AA to filter my life. Otherwise, it wouldn't take very long and I'd be out there again. I know it. I just know it.
So how is the book written? Is there a chapter on each of you? Is there a chapter for Arabella, a chapter for Julia, and then you come together in the end?
Yeah. So we kind of, I think the structure of the book took several months to crystallize, and we had a few kind of false starts, I reckon. But the chapter of the book is that it's 12 chapters in 3 parts. And I guess, we tried not to move in a kind of sort of very straightforward chronological way. So we've tried to kind of discuss the same events, from different perspectives. So I guess broadly it's a project on memory, and the fallibility of memory, and how you can, how you tell the same story in different words. I think it's what, it's what we really...
That's a very important strand of the book, that we felt we didn't have to waltz together in tandem, that we could come at this from, and that's probably what would make it more interesting for readers, actually, is to have the dissonance,
and to keep that crackle in of being able, like any mother and daughter might, of disagreeing on certain events, or how...
It was a learning curve, put it that way.
I'm sure. Is it 12 chapters? Is that just coincidence that it's...
No, that's
there is a reason, the 12 steps.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
And at the very end, do you think you offer hope and inspiration and help for other people going through a similar story?
I hope so. I hope that people get hope because from reading the book, because AA gave me hope, and I had really come to the end, my tether actually, and I've had such a great life in AA. You know, I've been able to rebuild my life from the outside. You know, AA does give hope to people. Addicts are hopeless people. They are very inclined to feel hopeless, and their situation very often is hopeless. And AA is there to break through that conviction and to show you that there is a chance to start again. However awful things are, you can start again.
And how do you feel, Arabella?
Yeah, I feel very strongly that the message is that you can repair the relationships that you have, and you can heal from really quite difficult events in your life. And I think the writing of the book itself was an incredibly healing process for Mum and I, but there is so much hope and so much humour. And I think in the epilogue we talk about, you know, walking in the sunlight together. And I think certainly, you know, we've had our challenges recently. You know, we've been under a certain amount of stress publishing the book itself. And I think that, you know, we have walked together into the light on this. And so there is a lot of hope, certainly.
Oh, well, I think you're both incredibly brave for coming on and talking about it and putting it into the book, which we are selling right now on our website, TRE.radio. It's called In the Blood. It's a stirring new 2024 intergenerational mother and daughter memoir on alcoholism, betrayal and recovery. It came out the 7th of November, and it's by Arabella Byrne and Julia Hamilton, who we're chatting to now. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me, and keep healthy and happy and sober and have a good life. You take care. You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.